Hey, good morning. It is October 16th, 2021. This is another edition of Coffee and Freedom. And guys, look, in New York State, we can get coffee, but I'm really worried about this issue about freedom. We have conversations all the time about the fact that every single move our state makes shrinks freedom, and we fail in so many instances of adding to the level of freedom, and we fail, guys, in giving people the benefit of the doubt. And so we had some breaking news on an issue that concerns me and has concerned me drastically for a long time. And Greebsland, you can't have it connection issues right now. Let me tell you what, you need
I'm
to
trying.
stay hang in there because I'm about to turn the floor over to you. But we got Robert Greebsland, we've got William Van Helmond, and we've got Stephanie Jackson for the people. And so, guys, these are people that are proactively working towards a freer freedom in our lifetime in New York State. And I think that the COVID stuff highlighted how petty tyrants can just contract our freedom over and over again. And I think Stephanie's having audio issues. But Mr. Greebsland, what's going on in the father's rights, the parental rights, the family court situation?
Well, there's a whole lot going on. October 7th, Cash Jackson, who's been a huge name for the movement, he's a retired Navy officer who used to have top secret clearance and has become a criminal overnight when he started advocating for his kids in Lake County, Illinois. In 2018, Cash Jackson ran for governor. Am I having connecting issues, or are you guys there?
No, we're hearing you, man. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
I hear you.
That means people are hearing you as well.
And so Cash Jackson ran for governor in the state of Illinois back, I believe it was in 2018. He has been fighting for years to see his children. He hasn't seen his kids in about 3 years. He went to trial over the summer in front of Judge Janelle Christensen, and he spent about a week in the Lake County court, and he was only able to see the back of his son's head during the time that he was there.
Wow. What an offensive
That
thing.
sucks.
It just, yeah.
So from a Navy guy who did 20 years in the military, who served his country, came home to not be allowed access to his kids. I mean, it's a pretty terrible thing.
Wow.
So on October 7th, he had allegedly called the sheriff's department in Lake County, Illinois, and allegedly threatened the life of two judges. I'm assuming the judges would be Judge Salvi, which was the original judge in his case, and Judge Janelle Christensen, who they're speaking about. So he's right now being held in Logan County Jail in Arkansas, waiting an extradition hearing on Monday. His bail is set at $500,000, and he's probably going to be extradited over to Illinois. At which point, I'm hoping that we're able to raise $50,000 to set his bail.
How much does he need?
He's going to need $50,000.
Why does this guy need bail money when, in fact, every place I've paid attention to, just letting people go with no bail? Why is this? What is going on?
You mean like New York State?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from my
They have
understanding,
repeat offenders because they get released.
yeah, I believe that in Illinois they're still doing the 10% on the bail bit to get him out. It's amazing. He's actually been treated very differently than most people during the pandemic. He was forced to go in person in family court because they were afraid of him broadcasting his court hearings via YouTube. And
of course, right?
Yeah.
They'll do anything to marginalize voices. That want to criticize them. They prop themselves up. Bro, I mean, it's so like I don't know how to explain it, man. It just seems like the system props up the system. And of course, look at this Suffolk County frickin' Spectrum kicks William Van Helmond off because he's got a lot to say about this subject. And let's check in with Stephanie. Stephanie, can you hear me? Oh, all right. Man, oh man. So, guys, this is the perils of live broadcasting on the internet. We have occasionally these issues where people want to join us, and unfortunately, we have connection troubles. But bear with us. I think Robert and I can tell a pretty good story about I think the family court system, because one of the things that you've really done a good job of it when you and I talk is that I want to say it's like only dads that are getting screwed over by the family court system. And it's a very female based system. And I think that you want to kind of, as did Frank last week, want to correct me on that. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It really comes down to oftentimes your popularity. Now, in most areas of society, women are probably far more popular than men in general.
Oh, absolutely. Because we're awful. We're oppressors.
But there are some women that other women don't like. And once they become unpopular, they face even, harsher or the similar penalties that we do in family court. So that's an absolute certainty.
Yeah.
I believe a lot of it's based on popularity.
So one of the promises I made, from the flatlands to the hilltops, we are fighting for freedom. And so, Mr. William Van Helmond, let's get some of your thoughts on family court and the basic dystopian nature of its existence, what it does, who it props up. Let's talk about that.
Well, we're going to need about 4 or 5 shows to really handle all of that, but I'll try to give you an abridged version. First of all, I got cut out for a second, so I missed some of the other guest stuff, so I apologize. But I heard he was mentioning the Navy, and the Navy's birthday was on the 15th, 246 years strong, so happy birthday, Navy. But going back to family court, I've been a victim of family court on 2 occasions. First one, not so bad because I had a wife or ex-wife that was cooperative, but my second, not so much. And you want to talk about not having rights and going in with like strike 2, before you even meet or talk about anything. And it's not even a regard of what the fault is, who was at fault, or, if she committed the crime or I committed the crime, I'm still guilty regardless of which, because of the system. It's designed especially for small business owners and the male population. And I'm not saying I'm anti-female at all, but, when you walk into family court, you already have 2 strikes against you as a male. And it's not favorable, and the outcomes, because of pendente lite orders that they used against me, force you to settle or go to trial, which will not be favorable for you when you end up paying way more than a fair share based upon actual income costs. They do imputed income costs, and when you agree to that, you can never change it. So I'll give that as a quick summary, Tim, and take it from there as you deem.
I've always found that in my experiences with family court, the first filer seems to get the benefit of the doubt. And in 99%, well, okay, that's a made up stat, guys, but I will make up stats. That's a reality. But most of the time, the first filer would be the female or the most aggressive person in the situation. And I think that's, regardless of what they try to do afterwards, it's already too late. So, guys, if you're out there and you're like, here's a piece of advice for men and women. If your spouse or significant other is telling you that they're thinking about talking to a lawyer, they already have. And they're one step ahead of you right there. So you need to start battening down the hatches. Now, I want to be very clear, and I want to give a shout out to the ladies that were in my life. Both of them, I have two different, exes. They were excellent about sharing time with the kids, about being reasonable about money. And I know that makes me one of the very few people in the world that's the way it played out. They some of it took a lot of money, some of it took a lot of time and a lot of patience, and me kind of just like being as stubborn as I possibly can be. But they hung in there. We hung in there. We crafted reasonable agreements. Now, one of the agreements that we crafted could be legislated into law, and that was it could be a presumption, right? That was the presumption of shared custody, which
Right.
will absolutely change the dynamics. It will take a lot of the financial incentives out of this system. And so, guys, that's why lawyers don't want it. And we're run with it. Half this situation of government is run by trial lawyers. And I think that oftentimes is a big, huge part of the problem. There's a lot of financial incentives there. What do you
Can
think?
I jump in on that, Tim?
Yeah, please do. Jump in, bud.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Confrontation is what keeps the meters running for the lawyers on both sides. You know, if you have terms and you come in and settle immediately, there's not much money for them to make, you know, and that's the problem. And like you pointed out, I want to point out my first ex, her name was Janet. Her and I worked out our own divorce plans, and we submitted them in without lawyers. And her and I are still friends today. We were just not meant to be married. We have two beautiful kids, and she's a fantastic mother. My second ex, her name's Michelle, not so much. She was all about the money. She wouldn't cooperate on anything. She denied the right. She even broke the custody of rights agreements with me by not bringing them, and I'd have to file the police reports and then get 6 of them, go back, cost me 16 grand, and the judge slapped her on the hand and said, don't do it again, because there's no recourse against the parental parent that has custody of the kids versus the non-parental. But on the monetary, if you miss a payment, they can seize your bank account. They can pull your licenses to operate your business. They can take your driver's license. But in my case, unfortunately, she wouldn't allow me to see the kids. I tried to get legal help, and they just told her not to do it again. No penalty, no financial impact, no nothing. And as soon as we left, she did it again. So that was my point on that.
I see another issue here with what you just said, though, you know, and this is something that everybody faces. You're paying a lot of legal fees in order to see your kids, but yet you're being held at a specific standard when it comes to providing for your kids. So they want to dictate the amount of money that you're going to pay to provide for your kids. But then as soon as you're not allowed to see your kids, you're going to have to pay money to the courts to maybe the courts will help you out to try to get to see your kids. None of it makes sense. Where is it in the best interest of the children for the courts to absorb your financial assets in exchange for you seeing your kids, while at the same time calling you a deadbeat or dictating to you how much you have to pay your ex-spouse for your kids? It doesn't make any sense.
Not at all. I agree with you 100%. And honestly, you have to change the legislation, at least in Suffolk County, where I am, at the county level, because they're the ones that control the courts. You're seeing county courts and judges of that level of government. So, you know, to try to get a legislature to handle this or go and try to change this, he's going to end up losing his job to create legislation to create what is absolutely needed. It's so outdated and broken. It's ridiculous. But it's just one of those things that they want to keep the meters running on both sides, because that's how they make money, is by creating the arguments between the parties. And if you know, they tell them that if you don't allow the other party to see the kid, whether it's male or female, it doesn't really matter. There's no recourse, but you know what? We can get him back in court. We can argue, and he's going to pick up the tab in my case, because I was paying her attorney at the same time too. And you know, where is justification in that? When you're trying to see your children, you're paying for a lawyer, or what they call a law guardian, for the kids, representing them when they're younger, and you're paying for your attorney, and then you're paying for her attorney because of an order of the court. And you know, and I'm watching 3 lawyers argue my case, and I'm like, I can't afford this. You know, it's you know, it's almost $1,000 an hour. The 3 of them are arguing. I'm like, stop arguing and come up with a solution. I have the solution. I don't need any of you. You know,
that's the way to try to do it, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
they make money in so many other aspects and areas of the court as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the domestic violence groups are collecting, are raising funds basically for legal aid societies and guardian ad litems and you know, private you know, lawyers who will take on cases for females. Not only are they getting funding through DV grants, but they're also absorbing a lot of the funding for the ADA. And something that I've been looking at recently is a lot of the legal aid areas of society that are associated with these DV groups who are also collecting the ADA are not representing men. And this is where it becomes gender specific, because there are definitely, without a doubt, more resources for women when it comes to family court issues than there are men, hands down. And that if we want to get gender specific, that's where women are granted a lot more. And absolutely.
So, guys, I see, if you could see what I put up there as a banner, Assemblyman Christopher Teague, who's basically up near me. He's the next representative district, which we can bring up the new gerrymandered districts that haven't quite been approved yet, but are going to be a complete train wreck. There's absolutely no incumbency, which in a way I like, but in a way, like, anyways, this guy, Chris Teague, sponsored a bill called Rebuttable Presumption of Shared Custody, which means you still have access to say, look, shared custody is not going to work in this case because he or she does this, and this is inappropriate. I think it's a very simple, straightforward way. I know that Colorado has a rebuttable presumption of shared custody. I know 4 or 5 other states have mainstreamed it. What we've seen is in those states is people working out their agreements themselves and moving forward. And they work out money separately. They don't even talk about money. And I know that is unfortunate because money becomes an absolute lever with which to beat you about the head and shoulders with. Another guy named Andrew J. Lanza from Staten Island has offered something slightly different. He wants to create a whole new bureaucracy where we have all sorts of people helping decide the custody arrangement before it goes to family court. Both ideas, I think, are better than what we have now, but I'm way more in favor of Mr. Teague's bill. And I think, guys, you can go to the New York State government page and find the bill and read up on both of the bills. And like I said, I like simplicity. I like the presumption of shared custody. I think that society would be well served to see that grow. Well, you guys have any comments on that?
Yeah, to add to Chris's bill, Chris put out that bill a few years ago now, and it's been co-sponsored by Republican legislators. That it really hasn't been given much of. It's been ignored by the Democrats sitting in the assembly. However, I know a few weeks ago, Jason from the National Parents Organization had just completed polling in New York, and it turns out that shared parenting is being supported by over 90% of people who were polled, and that goes for Democrats, men, women, Republicans, and the like. So I'm hoping that helps support that.
I can't say I've actually.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I haven't really actually looked at the bill, so I can't really comment on it at this time. But I will check it out and maybe comment later. But the only thing I can say, at least from my endpoint and what generally happens, and I hope this bill, as I'm understanding it from listening to you, does help improve it. The best case scenario for a person like me, or generally a gender specific group being targeted, like the male species, is that you end up signing up when you get married, go through a divorce with a significantly bad mortgage for X amount of years, but it does end. That's the only hope, is that there is a light at the end of a very long, big tunnel that you're all of a sudden finding yourself in from a practical point. And mine did end about 3 years ago, and it was like I gave myself a $57,000 a year raise, which was kind of nice.
Oof.
So
congratulations, brother. That's great.
Yeah. But I mean, that's all I wanted to throw in it.
No, I want to point something out there that this situation does begin and end, but that in a way does not help the younger folks in society. What happens is as we move through life, we forget about the pressures and the trials and the tribulations of family court, and we put it behind us. And then it's kind of a small percentage of the population that actually gets trapped in this horrible kind of dystopian interaction between family court and families. And so we tend to we ignore it because people get really emotional. We tend to like let it shuffle off to one side. And I don't think that's why I keep talking about it, I guess. I think that I know that there's young men and young women out there right now going through, I just want to call it a hellscape of family court interaction. And I want that to be better for younger people. It's one of the things I sat on
Absolutely.
my hands when it came to politics for decades. Okay. And to think that family court isn't an example of politics and policy that is bad, well intentioned, but the road to hell is paved with well intentions. To understand that is important, and that people need to stop sitting on their hands.
Mhm.
So what do you think about
Mhm.
that, Robert? What are you going to do to help out Cash Jackson?
Well, Cash Jackson, I plan on driving out to Illinois
Excuse
when
me
I'm
1 second.
going to be, and also uh, keep in contact with, or try to get in contact right now with Ted Bush and see what over there, what people are involved in helping to raise for him. And I'm hoping to provoke people to rally over and start getting around the courthouse and really support him in person. One of
Yeah.
the one of the saddest things was Cash Jackson has a lot of military friends who are in the area of Lake County. There's a naval base there, and so it didn't seem as though anybody came out to support him during the time that he was in trial over the summer for the week that he was there.
Yeah, of course not, right? Because he's a fringe lunatic who has no, like, he's obviously lost his mind, lost his temper, and he's the actual problem, right? Isn't that how people end up perceiving this stuff?
That's exactly how people end up perceiving it. And it's really sad. I think that it's interesting, but people tend to have this sympathy for parents who lose their children through death, disease, things of that nature. But what people fail to realize is that when you're up in family court there, I mean, I was in family court when my son was 11 months old, and I felt like I lost my child because I'm being told that I'm going to have limited access to him from now on, and I'm under threat of not being allowed to see him. I mean, just that threat alone is damaging. It really hurts. It takes a piece of your soul. And everybody wants to be able to not only be there for their children, be there to protect their children, but then once you have this third party that can so easily come between you and your own children, it's a really hard pill to swallow.
I that's, I think, exactly the situation. There was a short period of time where I felt very much exactly like you felt. And now you, unfortunately, had it's kept going for you. And I think that that's something that people don't understand. This is like stress, battle stress. Okay. And this Cash Jackson, maybe he said something inappropriate, but that doesn't mean he doesn't need our support. And look, let's give a shout out to Michelle Ann. And this happens. Okay. What happens when a guy gets the kids over a lie for three kids, two of whom are not even his biologically? The mom is still fighting to see them more than 2 weekends a month. And I gotta say that's why you're better at this than I am. You say it's not just men that get taken advantage of here, right?
Correct. Yeah. No. And absolutely. And this is something that is really mind blowing. And with prior bills that have been passed, it seems like they're trying to open up the landscape for even more controversy. And what they seem to really be trying to do is they're trying to do away with the concept of biological parents. So they want to give in a way equal rights to non-biological people who identify themselves as the parents of other people's children, and then somehow give them rights to the kids over the actual biological parents, which there's so much complexities when it comes to that. And I'm in complete and utter favor of support with the LGBTQ community and what they got going on when it comes to themselves as individuals. But now we have this sort of weird gray area where people think it's okay to take other people's children, and that to me is a big no-no.
It takes a village to raise children, bud. That's the deal. And now the village is saying, hey, we're the only ones that can raise your children, I think is one of the issues that we're bumping up against.
Yeah, and getting worse. I mean, I just got an email yesterday from a local campaign who is talking about, it was sending out a survey of getting people on board with paying for daycare, universal daycare. And I think that's going to be, if that ends up going through, that's going to be yet another step of where our kids end up becoming not our
Wards of the
kids.
state. And
Yep.
so, I mean, everything that they set up seems to just enhance the power of the government to help us go to work and earn taxes for the government. Like, they've destroyed the concept of the nuclear family. They've destroyed the concept of people, making successes of themselves from working their way up from nothing to being successful. And they've made it so hard. If you have a kid and you have a custody order that you want to spend a lot of time with them, if you violate that custody order, you're always under threat of losing more of your rights, losing more time with your children. And government makes life very stressful and very argumentative.
Well, what I think that some people have to start thinking about also is that it goes across the board. It really comes down to property rights. And, that's another thing that New York's looking to do too. They're looking to change the zoning laws where they're going to start popping up with having these two-family, these mandates for some sort of two-family homes or something going on with these new zoning things that getting put together here. So, I mean, at what point do we tell the government, here's all our property, take our children, take our homes, take our cars, and you figure it out? We'll just
the government that's the steps that they're moving towards, right? And I had an argument about zoning yesterday with a guy, and I'm trying to explain to him, zoning is an abridgment of your rights. Your property is your property. You bought it under a certain set of rules, a certain set of agreements. And then when you rezone, you're basically taking people's rights away from them. And guys, that's one of the reasons we hear this clarion call about affordable housing. And I'd like to segue into this a little bit. So this is good. I'm glad that you brought it up. This clarion call about affordable housing. And I want to tell you that I live in Otsego County, New York, and that there's properties falling in the ground all over the place. But the answer that the government came up with was to take public property, a parking lot, and build a whole bunch of quote unquote affordable housing units. So the biggest problems, guys, is the government trying to fix problems that the government created. I'm going to do a show about the history of zoning and code enforcement in Oneonta and how they tried really hard to protect people who were being taken advantage of by landlords. And what in fact they did was contract the supply of housing, and they contracted they only made the fact that people won't even rent long-term rentals anymore. They won't do it. They will only rent to students. And the whole goal of everything that they did was to make it so that renting to students was like going to be prohibited, or at least very much more difficult. It's a hilarious thing. No one understands it. And I try to explain it. A few people understand it, but I keep trying to explain it. Stephanie, are you there?
I am here. I can hear you.
Yes, that's great.
How about late?
So we were just segueing into an issue about zoning. Maybe that's not your strong point, but you want to talk about zoning?
I'm okay with talking about zoning. I'm always open for anything.
You are. And guys, Stephanie ran a race as a Republican libertarian up in Syracuse. And guys, she got a lot of votes, man. And I'll tell you what, she's doing some cool stuff. So William Van Helmond is a Flatlander. He's not from New York City, thank God, because I don't know that we'd be able to get things going along. But what I was talking, we'll stick with zoning for a second. And I want to get your thoughts on it. I was saying that zoning and rezoning is basically an abridgment of people's property rights. And that's one of the tools that the government uses to purportedly help people. And then it ends up creating all sorts of problems. What do you think about that?
I agree. It's like redistricting.
Yeah, we were talking about redistricting too, man. It's crazy. But look at my shirt, guys. I'm getting all sorts of cool libertarian stuff. Good ideas do not require force. Zoning is force.
That's right.
Period.
Yep. They have a thing in Suffolk, Tim, that they're doing. We have they're reforming the whole master plan right now, and that affects all the zoning. And another thing that they use, government does, is the TDR, the transfer of development rights, where if you couldn't because of zoning, put something on that property, but you have enough transfer development rights for preservation projects, which is a good thing. But then you're allowed to maximize a use that normally you wouldn't have on that, which would, exempt other people, not equally proportioned that wouldn't have those rights, if that makes any sense to you.
It makes perfect sense. And let me frame it this way, okay? We talk about lack of opportunity. We talk about lack of skilled tradesmen. We talk about lack of everything that we do has gotten so expensive. Like if we want our car fixed, we have to go to Walmart or a Costco or something like this to get our car fixed, and they're charging 80, 90, $100 an hour. Back in the 70s and 80s, all over Oneonta, New York, guys had little mechanic shops where you could take your car there and get it fixed. Zoning kicked those small businesses to the effing curb and destroyed opportunity, future, and trades passed down from generation to generation. That's what zoning does. That's what zoning did. It centralizes the power. And that's why these kids, that's why we don't have skilled tradesmen. Now we need school to produce skilled tradesmen. It's a ridiculous concept, and we do it to ourselves all the time. What do you think about that, Stephanie? I'm getting all fired up here. My coffee's kicking in finally.
I'm not quite there yet.
I hate zoning. I hate it.
I'm still flustered from the speaker problem, and you were 100% right that it was the button up at the top right, probably from the last time we did this. But,
I know. I knew it was. I was trying to get you to listen to me, but it's okay. You're here now, and that's what's important.
True. And, honestly, I agree with all of your points that you just made. And part of, what I'm doing with Divide New York is trying to get people to understand how this is really a solution. Everybody's got complaints and gripes, including zoning, but this all really comes down to the New York State regulations that are killing every industry that you can imagine, from your daily life to your business to, whatever it is. And it's got to stop. We've sent millions of people out of the state, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And, you mentioned that I had ran as a Republican libertarian, also conservative. I had, 3 lines. But I call myself today a conservatarian because
I like that.
I'm a conservatarian, and I have to agree with you. And the things that I'm seeing is, I've just been so fired up about talking about all of these issues. And, I've gone across the entire state this year doing regional meetings to try to at least get in front of people, because this is an effort that kind of stalled out, and I get a lot of flack that the movement's unconstitutional, or that it's been around for 10 years and it's never going anywhere. But this is the first year I'm the co-chair, and there's been movement on this thing that's never happened before, and it is 100% constitutional. It bypasses Congress. It puts it back at the state level. We form a token state government with having 3 regional governors that are representative to our areas. And we have a unique opportunity for the people to get behind us, pass these home rule resolutions, because New York State has a home rule resolution clause.
I love home rule. I love it.
People get behind this. We can literally get rid of these stupid laws and these stupid regulations and get back to what a more conservatarian way of life up here in upstate New York. And that is so needed. And there's more people behind this than ever. So, that's my solution to your gripe about these regulation zoning, Tim.
I love it. I was just about to dump this into William Van Helmond's lap, but he's actually on a job site. That's kind of one of the miracles of modern technology. He's literally running his business and at the same time participating in politics. And right now I want to point out to a lot of you small businessmen and women that the government, you can try to ignore the government, but the government will not ignore you. They will continue to take your rights. They will continue to beat up on you. And what we need are real solutions. And Stephanie, you're right. Like, one of the problem, and Greaves, and I'll get you back in here. Don't get bored over there. We'll be all right. One of the real issues that we face, right, is that New York City being a densely populated area, is using the power of democracy to take all of our rights. They ship garbage up to Canandaigua County. They have condemned property all over Delaware County, and they've bought and they've taken it off the tax rolls. They've abridged everybody's rights so that they can have clean water. Now, what about the concept? Like, if we divide up and we just say, you know what, New York City, you're too big, stop it. What do you think we would ever be successful there?
100%, because most of the things that people say is, oh, upstate, you can never survive on your own. We get as much as billions of dollars from New York City, and so on and so forth. And that's going off the principle, from the Rockefeller Institute that did the study back in 2014 or 2012, whenever it was. A, biased. B, assuming that we're going to run the government the same way. No, we're not. You can do that down in New York City and run your region the same way. But upstate, Long Island, no, we have zero interest in doing so. We have our own sources of water. We have our own sources of electricity. We can totally cut back our taxes automatically at 4%. We're cutting them right back. So there is so much benefit to upstate New York breaking off from this. You can keep your billions, fix your subways, take care of your trash, do what you have to do, because what we'll do is get rid of these regulations so that our farming industries and our businesses and our homeowners can thrive again. There's so much that we can do by just changing what it is right now.
Yeah, and the other thing that flies in the face of that whole we wouldn't be able to survive financially without New York City. The New York City's MTA loses $10 billion a year. They have projects that they've had in the works for decades that have cost billions and billions and billions of dollars to people all over New York State. We don't need your help. I don't want your help. Yeah. I'm glad that there's libertarians in New York City, but their voice is minimized every step of the way. So I'm with you, man. And guys, I'm a statistics kind of like guy. They crafty lies. If I read that Rockefeller study correctly, it avoided the issue of the MTA. It avoided the issue of transportation, and it avoided the issue of the impact on the economy in upstate New York, where, guys, they have deliberately shrunken opportunity in upstate New York deliberately by forcing laws on us. It's nonsense. They're crazy.
The regulations and the taxing. And I mean, we lost hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs before that study was even put out. So it was a complete tanking of that. But another point that you brought up, it's a democracy right now. We have a complete trifecta in the state, and it's total mob rule. I'm sorry.
Mob rule.
It's the truth, but that's not what this country is. It's a constitutional republic. And so with that being said, we have a real issue here in New York where we're being ruled by executive order when the Assembly and Senate, which are already Democrat and rule, when that's not working, we can just rule by executive order. So we've gone to such extremes up here in New York State that it's just killing our whole entire way of life up here. And we could go back to a self-sufficient way of life that most people would prefer. We want our guns, and we have a unique opportunity right now too for an event that I have coming up on the 24th, a Meet the Governors event, and it is Meet the Republican Governors event. Larry has to be in another commitment for that, but that being said, we really have a unique opportunity to have them all in the same place and really hit them with these questions, and
hey, this is a great way to get information out. What's the date on that?
It is the 23rd, and it is at the Sky Armory, Syracuse, New York. It will have Mike Carpinelli, Rob Astorino, Andrew Giuliani, Derek Gibson, and I hope I'm not missing anybody. I haven't had my coffee yet.
Derek Gibson is going to be there. I like Derek, man. He's a ball of fire, man.
He is
awesome.
Right. He does. He keeps it true. And, I don't know you know, how it will be. Everybody seems to think Lee Zeldin is a shoo-in, but I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing and asking these right questions and doing my homework. And, you know, he's total establishment. He's the only one that's not coming because he doesn't like to be asked questions in person. And he gets his donations from Big Pharma. Sorry, you can go to Open Secrets and see that information. And further than that, he also he didn't vote for the SAFE Act because he was on active military duty. However, he did vote for the budget with the funding for the SAFE Act in it. So there it is. We have a problem with that upstate New York, you know.
Yeah.
And I want people to be educated in this vote. It's that important. I don't even know if our votes matter when they're hooked up to Wi-Fi anymore. But it is that important to have informed people voting, you know, not just because this person seems like a great fit. Like, do your homework.
Yeah. Larry Sharp was invited to that event. I love Larry. He's doing things his way, and I respect him for that. I do wish he would attend that event, but that's up to him, man. And he's going to be out there meeting people elsewhere that day, I'm sure.
Oh, no, he's going to be in the Southwest. I'm going to work with Larry on his campaign and push him hard all the way because, you know, I support Larry 100%.
He came up and met a group of my friends, and I mean, I really felt like he hit the room well, and they loved his ideas. And one of the ideas, and you brought it up, first of all, I got to ask you a favor. When we talk about the New York State legislature, can we always try to insert the word feckless? Because they are feckless. They are useless. They granted this power. They no longer have any power. They granted this power to Clown Mo, and they granted this power by default to Hochul, and she's making a mess of it, guys. I don't care. Like, Facebook going to ban me or some crap like that. Okay, I get it. Do it. These guys are bad people. They're making authoritarian decisions without regards to individual rights, without regards to liberty, and without regards to respect for people who don't see things their way. And it drives me nuts.
Feckless. Got it.
Feckless.
Never noticed that, Tim.
I never noticed that. Occasionally, Christmas, what do you think? Can we divide New York and be effective, or will we all go broke because New York City is not financing upstate New York?
So I think it's really fascinating, and I might not be as much of a historian as you guys, but I do believe that we've kind of so we've kind of moved away from property rights when the vote started being given to other people than property owners. And what I find most interesting is if you go throughout the state of New York, you have majority of voters, I would assume, are property owners. In New York City, majority of the voters are not property owners, they're renters. So I think we're fighting two different ideologies, how people, you know, live their life more or less, and hence why we really can't get along. So I think dividing New York would be essential to allow people in the city who have the mindset of renting to continue on the path of all property is for everybody and whatnot, and see how that goes for them. And then, you know, people in upstate New York who want to actually keep their property and not give it to people just because they said so, to be able to do that.
You're right. It's a total different way of life. And, you know, I know a lot of people are so angry and do like hate New York and, you know, they rule it. They're making all the decisions for us up here. But, you know, we want New York to prosper too. We're not actually splitting the state to become a new state, although I do support that notion too. This is autonomous regions. This is autonomous regions where New York City has the opportunity to prosper too by keeping their own bucks and being able to have their region ran the way that they choose to, have more money in their, you know, budgets. Whereas upstate can go forth with their representing their regional needs and wants, which are not the same. That's why I really feel strongly that it's a solution as a conservative, as a libertarian, because I'm trying to really get people to understand that this really is a great solution for smaller government, for all of the things that the Libertarian Party really cares about. This is a unique opportunity for property rights, for us to have our land, for not having eminent domain. So many issues that are becoming so obvious in New York, or upstate New York, rather.
Yeah. And look,
If
guys,
I could talk about,
please go ahead. I got so much to say, and I know I'm hogging. Go, Mr. Van Helmond. Talk
no,
about it.
I just want to say, I'm in the flatlands, as Tim likes to point out. I call him a hilltopper. But,
Yep.
the thing is, in Suffolk County, we're on eastern Long Island. So we have a lot of beaches, beachfront properties. We're a heavy agricultural state with vineyards. We have viticulture. We have a lot of wineries. I think we got about 60 of them on the North Fork alone. But my point is, I understand the troubles that you're having with the controls going upstate. Problem we're having in Suffolk County or east of the city is that they're close enough. They're coming out and they're desecrating our area. And actually, with COVID, when they fled the city because of de Blasio, which is enough reason to flee that city anyway, just de Blasio. But they're coming out now and reliving and buying properties in my area. And now they're running for office. And when we had ballot access, I had several transplants, as I call them, from the city that wanted to run for trustees, which is basically the waterways and the marshlands, the fisheries and open space. But it's also public access. That's what the trustees handle. And the thing I found familiar, I had one individual that came from the Bronx and she wanted to run for South Town trustees. And I'm going to tell you exactly what she said. I had asked her, why do you want to run for the trustees position? I'm the chairman of the county. And her answer was, well, I have a lot of my friends that are investing in waterfront properties and I want to make sure they can maximize the build out. And you want to talk about dead silence like I'm hearing right now?
Yeah.
And I'm like, sorry, ma'am, this is not what a trustee's supposed to do. And there's no way in God's creation will I give you an endorsement to do so. So, but that's their mentality. And in Suffolk County or the flatlands, like Tim says, not only do we deal with them throwing their money around, helping our economy, which is a big influx, tourism in Suffolk County is big, but now because of COVID and the pandemic, and the regulations from government, they're fleeting because our numbers were lower than the averages in the state. And now they're basically buying properties and living out here and starting to become a force in politics or attempting to be. And that might change it. The North Fork of Long Island is mostly Republican. Suffolk County is a Democratic county. But the east end of Long Island, where I live, is mostly Republican stronghold. So it's going to be interesting how that's going to change. And you want to talk about gerrymandering up a map. I can't wait to see it in the next 10 years. But I just wanted to throw that out there. We deal with a double-edged sword with the city. And I wanted to form Peconic County to get away from even Suffolk County, the western side, and that's failed. We had Fred Thiel, who's in the assembly for like over 30 years. That's another issue there. Although he is an independent and the only independent on the assembly, he plays the game with the Republican parties with the Wilson-Pakula Act to obtain it. But he's pushed for Peconic County, but it falls on deaf ears because they don't want to lose the cash cow of revenue that they get from us on the east end of Long Island. That's all I
want to add to your point there. We actually, on November 13th at the South Bay Diner in Lindenhurst, we're going to be having a Divide New York meeting down there because what we are looking to do with the Divide New York is have a Montauk region. So that would include Long Island. So we understand exactly you're going through similar things that we're going through here upstate. I can talk to you about Onondaga County, where I am from. We have an independent mayor who's basically a Democrat. He's not independent whatsoever, but he plays that game. He got the Republican votes until there was a big issue this year through COVID, the pandemic, the Columbus statue, you name it. Now, it's a whole mess. But it's the same type of thing. We have a two-time who I ran against, a two-time unopposed Democrat chair for assembly member here, Pamela Hunter. And, mostly, and we also have the city of Syracuse. And what's happening is a lot of people from New York City, with all of that free money that was given out, are also coming up and buying the homes for cheap. It's a seller's market right now where you can sell your
Yes.
home for about $20,000 to $40,000 more than the worth of it. And so a lot of people, good people, are
jumping
the
on it.
conservatarians are leaving and taking off to go down south. Well, New York City progressives are moving upstate, and you know, we really want to stop this before the state is so far gone that really not dividing it nor anything will we be done left, because you know the people who are paying the most money are really in Long Island, and tax wise, Long Island and Manhattan, New York City. And so many of them have gone that the tax burden that is going to be falling on the rest of the state, and with them still being in this totalitarian control right now, our taxes are going to be insane with gas rates going to 54%. I'm afraid for what's going to happen in upstate Long Island this winter as it is, you know. So I really am pushing this so hard as the solution, but again, representative to every single region, you know, because like Long Island has different needs than New York City. Long Island has different needs than upstate New York. You should be able to have a regional governor for yourself that is representative to you and your people, and not to just be the opposite to bring tyranny on the right. I don't mean that. We should have a balanced government. So like you mentioned, part of Long Island is Democrat and part of it is Republican. Good. That's where you have balance. The same thing. We have upstate, which is mostly red. And people say, but Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse. But you know what? We need to have balance in our government. We have to be respected and given all people. But the problem comes when we look at it as a democracy and we have this mob rule, which we currently have. We can't have that. We have complete tyranny in the state of New York right now.
I agree with that. I got to jump in here. I want to point out to everybody that back in 2018, there was what's called an independent Democratic committee or commission that was part of the New York State legislature. And the Working Families Party worked their third party magic on Cuomo, who then, in fact, destroyed the Independent Democratic Committee, destroyed them, primaried all of them, got rid of 6-8 Democrats. And all of those were progressive, left-leaning Democrats who don't respect individuality, who, as Robert made a valuable point, that their life experience is different than our life experience. That doesn't give them the right to take away what we enjoy about our life experience. And we want to respect. And this is, I think sometimes we're weaker than them. They will do anything they will point guns at us. They will hire police to take our stuff. And we don't want that from them. We don't want to do that to them. Though, guys, let me drop a truth bomb on you. We're caught, and I want to get everybody's comment on this when we're getting close to the end. But I'm going to drop a truth bomb on you. We are caught in an authoritarian spiral all over all aspects of our society. Do you agree with me?
Yes, absolutely.
Griebland first. Go. What do you think? Comment on an authoritarian spiral.
It's bad. I don't even know how to expand on that. I think you're saying it. I think that in and of itself, authoritarian spiral is just the way of defining this. It's, you know, I listen to Ron Paul a lot, and he talks about what we're in now is a disease, and that there's a cure, but the cure to many of us seems as though it'll be worse than the actual disease. So we're constantly trying to come up with these softer solutions to heal society as a whole, so that we can each, have our individual liberty and do what we feel, or live our life the way we feel it should be lived. But I do believe that we're going to end up in a position where we might be living in a time where the cure might end up having to be the end solution.
All right, that's a little scary. But how about you, Mr. Van Hollen? You got something on the authoritarian spiral, and how do we get rid of it?
Absolutely, we are in bad shape, and the best way to get rid of it is to start voting gold and get this state gold, meaning libertarian. That's the only way. We are the answer to all that is wrong with government. We are the party of principle, and we will show both dominant parties who have blamed each other for over hundreds of years each other for everything that goes wrong in government without solutions. We're not band-aids, we're long-term solutions, and shrinking the government is key. And I totally agree with a lot of Ron Paul, as Robert had mentioned, because I listened to him a lot. He makes sense. It's common sense. We need common sense in government to get rid of the tyranny. And I'd like my information, Tim, provided to a lady. I'd like to talk to her after the show at some point when she comes out to Lindenhurst. I'd like to meet with her and discuss that more in detail. And that's my comment. Go gold all the way.
All right, Stephanie, like I want to hand out a participation trophy, but like a real one. The nonstop action I'm seeing on your part, and also William Van Helmond and also Robert, all of you guys are fighting for liberty. But Stephanie right now has the hot hand, man. She is doing stuff. You were behind that whole plan, that protest in Albany. You're behind this Republican governors meetup, which Larry Sharp was invited to. So it could have been Libertarian and Republican, but he like I said, I love Larry.
It's okay.
Guys, yeah. So, but I want to hand you a trophy right now. I don't know which one it is, but I got a bunch of extra trophies around. Maybe I'll do that. What do you want to say about this authoritarian spiral? You can fix it, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's issues that need to be looked at, but I don't know that even our elections are valid anymore. You know, there's so many things, and me running in the last election, I have firsthand knowledge of how that went with big tech censorship, with Mark Zuckerberg donating to my board of elections in as much as $280,000 while I was censored off of Facebook and then given it back on January 20th, the day Joe Biden took office. Like, there's too many coincidences here that I know firsthand, and I know from insiders through the audit that happened that they did purchase Dominion software. I do know that there was many issues, but and it is hooked to Wi-Fi, and you know, this isn't a conspiracy. It's real. It's happened, and it's very rampant throughout New York State. Claudia Tenney had the balls to go up against Brandisi and fight that to the tooth and nail of it, and ended up coming out on top. And so I have concern about that, and that's another reason that I'm so fired up behind Divide New York. And you're right, I'm for all of our rights all of the time. I am always fighting for our freedoms, whether we were locked down, whatever. I was out there protesting with the people. I did organize the Empire State, or the ending the tyranny for the medical workers in Albany, and brought everybody out to Albany and organized that event and held that event and hosted it. Yes. And I have been nonstop booked. Like I said, in 2021, I have covered the entire state with regional meetings for Divide New York. I am just constantly being asked to speak at events and do things, and I'm for it. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for freedom. I'm fighting for it, you know. So the only thing that I can do, one of the things that I learned when I was down in Orlando at the Yale convention, it was Tom Woods who said it. Educating people is not going to win them, you know. And I was spending a lot of time during my campaign trying to educate people on what's going on. Well, that's where I was stalled out at. Now, I'm not trying to educate you. I'm just trying to bring it to the forefront and say, here we are. We're fighting for these freedoms. Those who are with me can join me. If not, sit on the sidelines. Hopefully you'll catch up later. But it's go time. We don't have any more time to sit back and educate people. When you have a computer in front of you, you're being affected. Everybody's been affected, whether it's been from your gun rights, from your kids going to school with masks, critical race theory, you name it. Everybody's got a gripe and a problem right now. I'm all about trying to find the solution, and the solution is restoring what has been taken from us and fighting for our freedom all the time. And I'm so excited about not just going down to our downstate regional meeting that we have coming up here on the 24th, the day after my governor's meeting, but also the Long Island meeting, November 13th. But November 5th, 6th, and 7th is the LPNY Empire State Freedom Summit. I'm a guest speaker there. I will have a Divide New York table there. And I am so excited to do that and be a part of that, because all of the LP events that I have been a part of in the last year have been so exciting. So it's really, really an honor for me to be there and be a guest speaker. I'm excited about that one.
I cannot wait to the Empire State Freedom Summit. I'm going to be there. I haven't decided how many different hats I'm going to put on and how many different parties I'm going to participate in, but my wife and I went to the last one. We had an absolute blast. I am looking forward to seeing everyone there. And guys, I want to point out that medical freedom and so many of these other freedoms, like Stephanie is saying, is not actually freedom enough for me. It's a step in the right direction. It's a hand on the wheel. And guys, we got to get out there. We got to fight for liberty. We've got to fight for freedom. I have ideas about litmus tests. Like anybody that voted for the HEROES Act, they got to go. I don't care what party they're in. They've got to go. They're bad people. Anybody, honestly, when it gets right down to it, I'd be willing to replace any legislature that voted to give Cuomo these executive dystopian executive powers. But
Or didn't show
I
up
may
to
have
all
to
of the
compromise
times
that one
he
because
did.
that would
I
be
agree.
every single one of them except for 6. Okay, except for 6 people. Okay.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, guys. They were afraid. They were manipulated by fear of a virus. They abrogated their responsibility, and I'm disappointed. What do you
Me
think about
too.
that? And they had the chance to elect me, man. And guys, check it out. All over the state, people are running write-in campaigns, and I absolutely love that. I want to see more of that going forward. You are a disruptor. I am proud to know you. If you want to share space on any of my platforms where I'm reasonably popular, please get at me because I will prop you up to the best of my ability. I love it. Run write-in campaigns. Reach out to those people. You see their names on the signs in your neighborhood. Reach out to them and say, "Hey, are you against mandates? Hey, what's your plan for the future? Because my kid thinks wearing a mask is stupid." Like, talk to these people, and you will shape the future for your children. Greavesland, you got any closing words here?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that right now, Cash Jackson, for those of you who might know him, he's a former Libertarian candidate for governor in the state of Illinois. He is being extradited from Arkansas, from Logan County Jail in Arkansas, to Lake County, Illinois, for allegedly threatening 2 judges that were involved with keeping him from his kids for over the span of the last 3 years. So if there's any support that you can give, if you could show up, if you would like to come out to Illinois, Lake County, when he gets transferred, to support him, to be a lending voice. He's a 20-year Navy veteran who had top secret clearance, who's never committed a crime in his life, and has been dealing with the frustrations of the family court system and also the heartbreak of not being allowed to see his kids because of all that I can tell is judges simply not liking him.
I think, honestly, let's say it like this. Cash Jackson, if he was really a threat, they would have already known it, period. He is not a threat. This is a guy that's been abused and is suffering from PTSD from having to deal with family court for decades. It's nonsense. Stop treating these people like horrible human beings. Stop it. All of you people.
Absolutely.
Anyways, guys, thank you all for being here. Thank you. Remember the likes, the comments, the shares. Stephanie, great work. William, thank you for being here, even though I know you're out there managing your job site. Robert, always a pleasure. Have a great day. Go spread liberty. We'll talk to you later.